Even though council ordered. Call the roll.
Ms. May? Here. Mr. Kudinski?
Here.
Dr. Rocco? Here. Mr. Runyon?
Here.
Mr. Walker? Mr. Simpson is not here at this time.
Go ahead and turn it over to Peter with Michael Baker and Associates. Introduce everybody else who's here with us.
I just want to introduce,
Oh, sorry.
that's fine, I just want to introduce them real quick, but before we do that, basically, this meeting that we asked to have tonight is, to go over a more detailed plan of what the master plan that we already presented to you guys. How we're going to do phase one, how phase one will kind of start and the projects in that specific phase. And then also how each phase after that will play out. So they have a specific reason why they're doing each thing, and we just kind of want to be transparent. We, it's one thing that we heard that the community is really involved. I don't want to do it, letting you guys know the process. And then I guess one of the big things is you guys can ask questions along the way. So during the presentation, if you think your questions might be answered once we get to like specific slides and stuff. So maybe forward the questions until the end, and they may be able to answer it a little bit better, or it might get answered along the way. But that's basically the purpose to be here. If you guys do have any questions following the presentation, we're happy to field some questions, whatever may come up. And I'll let Michael Baker National take it over, and Steve will be doing the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Savage. I'm the lead for the civil design of the project. We're going to be talking about a lot of that up front. I'm going to hand it off to Mark Shannon, who will cover the building aspects on the back end. And we've already met Peter India, who is our program manager for the project. So for tonight, the agenda really is process, sequence, schedule is the first step. I want to explain a little bit of our process so that you guys get a better feel of what to expect as we move through the rest of the design sequence for the overall park improvements. And then we have the overall site improvements, which is really kind of that master plan that's been a little bit tweaked based upon feedback that we've received to date. The next step would be really to hone in on what that phase one. So there's going to be several phases that we're going to be talking about. The phase one is the first one, obviously, to go through. Wanted to give you guys a good firm understanding of what the intent for that first phase is going to be. Then I'm going to hand it off to Mark to cover the building improvements on the back end for a couple of the structures that we have some concepts ready for you to see. So process, sequence, schedule, the design process. Where we are right now is in the conceptual design phase. That's really developing those initial concepts, create illustrative design, gather support and stakeholder input from you guys, which is where we're reporting out on tonight. The next step is going to be to the 30% design level. We hard run that design, verify feasibility, confirm with you guys that we're moving in that correct direction, and gather some initial estimate data for costs and for schedule. Moving into 60%, that's the next phase where we'll start to progress that design to a point where we can start to apply for permits for some of the site features as well as some of the building features, get some of that permit agency input to integrate into a final design, which is the next step at 90%. Really, that's a complete design for final permit submissions and approvals. Basically, it's intended to capture all the previous comments, final cost verification, final schedule verification from the aspect of the construction phase, because we're really at the capstone of design at that point. And then that last step would be to issue them for construction. So we add a little bit of refinement that is specific to contractors who bid the project, adding details that instruct them on how to provide their bids, where to provide their bids, when, etc., as well as some additional detail on the plans themselves to assist with that bidding process. So really, this is the overall arc of the development process. And each of the phases that we're going to talk about is going to follow this process, not necessarily all at the same time, but in a kind of a staggered way, so that we can start to deliver things initially and then move through the rest of the process. So from a project sequence standpoint, when we look at the overall improvements that are proposed in the park, there's some areas that require to be demolished to construct new items. And so we have to kind of play a little bit of a shuffle game of moving around certain aspects of the facilities to make way for demolition and construction of others. So we've been kind of deliberate in our approach with respect to how we sequence the different phases so that we can move from one phase and prepare the area for another phase on the back end of that one being completed. Also with the intention of not to have a massive disruption of the functionality of the park for all of its users. We're trying to limit the impacts as much as we can in each one of these phases so that the rest of the park is available and open for all residents to continue to use. So in this overall diagram, you can see the sequences is numbered for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through phase 8. And we'll talk about each of these at a later time in the presentation as to identify exactly what each of those phases encompass. But really the intended delivery for phase 1 is going to be trying to get to July of 2024 for that first phase. So as we talked about, there's kind of that layer cake or that stacking and sequencing of each of these phases. You can see that some of them overlap, some delivery points are all intended to kind of dovetail into different quarters of the given years that are up there on there. This again is a very conceptual schedule based upon the information we have right now. And like we talked about in that sequence of design, at each stage of our design for each of these phases, we're going to refine that process. We're going to refine that schedule to give you more detail and to update the delivery dates. But from a conceptual level, this is the intent, is to deliver the first phase initially here in 2024, and then follow along in each construction season to get you guys the next piece of the overall development. So from an overall area, what I did want to do is cover the overall master plan and highlight the updates that have happened from the last time that you've seen this. And then we're going to talk about some of that sequencing and phasing of content. So as you can see, the overall park area there with all of the colorized improvements highlighted. We have provided some updated parking counts with regards to the overall development that we're showing, and a color-coded legend that identifies some of the improvements specifically as to what they are, to make it a little easier for you to read through the slide deck that you have. So breaking this down into lettered areas so that we're not confusing phase numbers and area numbers, I wanted to keep the two separated. So the first area, Area A, is really that, if you're looking at the plan sheet, it's in the upper right corner of that plan sheet. This is kind of that area that encompasses the Little League softball field. We're proposing a new stormwater pond up in this area because we're going to be adding a lot of new impervious surfaces. We anticipate that we're going to be required to create some stormwater management for it. So we identified this area up near where the primary exit as a good place to add. It's low, it's adjacent to a receiving stream. It's close to where all the new impervious improvements are going to happen. You can see an associated smaller parking lot directly associated with that Little League softball field, as well as the primary parking field that is going to be built where the existing pool facility is. And adjacent to that is a small tot lot, small playground for small children, as well as a shade structure. You can see that between the parking lot and the ball field there. The intent really is to give folks that have older children playing on a ball field that may have smaller children place, smaller children to be on the playground area and then sit underneath some shade, still be able to see the ball game from there. And collectively multi-use for multi-age families. Area B really moves into that upper part of the oval. And what this encompasses is the two playground areas. So you've seen previously what we showed you with regards to the playground areas. And upper playground or area 1 is that more formalized playset area. And the area 2 is a little more naturalized. So it's kind of mounded earth, some climbing rocks, slides integrated into it. We provided a little bit of examples previously on those two, but really we haven't dug into the design of those because the equipment is so specific that until we get to that stage of design, we're not going to be able to really lay it out. So we kind of kept it in the humble format. Also in this area is that relocation of the basketball and tennis / pickleball courts to make room for the new pool house and pool facility, as well as some updates to the community building with a little bit of updates to the parking area and a pre-engineered restroom. We have a couple of them out there currently. These are intended to replace them. Area C is that bottom half of the oval. Really, this is pretty straightforward. It's regrading that center part of the oval to be a little more level, a little more regular in its slope, and make sure that it's smoothed out, no dips and ditches, etc., to make it a little more hospitable for the soccer field usage and the general field usage that it sees. Previously, we had the amphitheater stage or stage adjacent to the hillside at the bottom, that's on the outside of the oval. We've moved that inset into the oval proper itself. The feedback that we heard from you guys that instead of having that sitting kind of tucked off to the side, you really wanted it a little more engaged with that center lawn area, because that was really how you guys envisioned using it, especially for 4th of July and other events. So we take the step to move that stage in that location, still fit the 5 fields located inset without disrupting usage of that bottom baseball field as well. But that's really kind of a larger change that you'll see in the slide deck tonight. And then the area D moves off to the page left, if you would, of the oval there, and encompasses updates to the dog park and parking, which is remote from the main area there, but wanted to cover that, and we're going to do some updated lighting and parking at the dog park. Updates to the brick pavilion, which Mark will cover in a little bit more detail at the end, as far as what's actually happening with the building itself proper. Adding a little bit of parking, really focused on folks who are hosting an event up there, being able to have a car up there to bring stuff to the pavilion, and dedicated handicap parking right there at the pavilion itself, as well as an accessible route down. There's some added parallel parking along the backside of all the small-scale pavilions that already existed on the hillside. And then Area E is that bottom half of the park, really where the 2 larger ball fields are located, updating the gravel parking lot with a more formalized paved parking area, some park walks, get kids from the cars to the ball fields, etc. And one thing I did want to point out is, with the dead-end parking approach that we have on here and as well as at the lower ball field, we wanted to provide some circulation hub at the bottom end of that, realizing that a lot of parents are going to end up dropping kids off at the ball field for the baseball games. Wanted to give a place where the cars can kind of circulate down, drop kids off along the sidewalk curb, so they're not walking kind of through traffic or through our cars. As well as, maybe the parent drops off kids and parks and then comes back itself. But again, keeping that movement so people are more protected from pedestrians to get to the baseball field. Now we're really going to get into that phasing that we talked about. And phase 1 really is that first step. And the first step that we've envisioned is moving those sport courts, because really the longest duration that we see from any aspect of the design and construction is going to be the new pool facility. So in order to make room for where we're relocating the pool facility to, we have to move the sport courts that are currently there. So we slid those down into the oval, and we're going to do the regrade of the oval at that time. That way we can, again, kind of take this whole area, concentrate the effort within it, and then when it's done, it's completed and open for use at the tail end. But the big aspect of this is in formalizing some of that parking along the oval itself, the angled parking, providing that new stage facility for when you have bands or other entertainment in the park, and updating the course to move those out so that we can do the construction, doing the grading, leveling, getting all the new grass planted and ready for use in the following season. In addition to that is the dog park. Just because the dog park is remote, it's kind of a standalone item. It would involve some similar types of construction, i.e. adding some parking, a little bit of lighting. We wanted to bundle that with this so that it can, again, get some additional improvements in the park as quickly as possible. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mark to talk a little more about the buildings.
I'm Mark Shannon, I'm an architect and project manager with Michael Baker. There are buildings on site that we will be addressing ultimately. Today we're going to concentrate on two, the pool house and the brick pavilion. So, Peter, if you could go to the next slide. What we've done is we've tried to take a guess based on what you have existing for your pool house and create a space program, however much space we need for each one of these different functions. So we took a stab at generating this space program. We added some elements like the entry, a specific locker room, is mostly storage, not necessarily for changing locker room. We did add a family restroom, with a small event space. We'll see all of this in a plan or plan next slide. Some of the other things that came up were it would be nice if there was some storage for the park, not necessarily for the pool. Those courts are right, people down on the plan, for lack of a better term. You'll see that there's some unisex toilets that are available to the park, not necessarily the pool. It could be open later into the season, those spaces, including that storage. We're also pointing out just some covered space. I'll show you on the floor plan. So you've seen this L shape. The other slide is around this L shape building, and we'll just kind of move around the facility. So at the upper right-hand corner, that's just the storage. We don't know if that's the right amount of space. We took a stab at it. I think it's probably appropriate. That's one of the things that ultimately we needed. We want a little help to refine, but this at least gets something on paper that you can. Moving down, we would have the splash pad controls. So equipment on the splash pad, then we have equipment for the pump room, for the pool, along with chemical storage. One of the things that we wanted to do with the chemical storage and pump room is we have those two doors on the right-hand side, so that it's easy to unload and deliver products, chemicals into that room. Someone can just pull up right there, take them in instead of coming through the facility and around. So that makes it a little easier. Now we'll get into the more public spaces. If you look on the right-hand side, there are two doors with a dashed line and a front canopy over top of the entrance. So one would come in to that entry space, that right entry space. To the right, there's a ticket office, and just basically an office for people to sign in, for kids to sign in. To the left of that is another office, kind of a staff room in first page. So when we walk in, check in, come down to the yellow space, which is the locker room, drop their items that they don't want to necessarily take into the pool. Then they could either go out, back out into the pool area, or they could go to the restroom. These two long spaces to the bottom, and this kind of, I guess, a cream color are the restrooms. Significantly larger than what you have. Those counts in terms of the numbers of facilities water closets, journals, lavatories, showers, all based off of what the anticipated occupant is. We base that off of design standards, maximum occupants, I think exactly it was 465 or something like that. So, moving to the left then is just that event space that we talked about. So, little kids having a birthday party, they can rent out that space, bring a cake, so forth and so on. Adjacent to that is concession storage, and then on the far left is the concession stand. We would have windows, people can come up, get their goods, and go back. Now, we talked about some of those public spaces earlier, so the very bottom right is the storage room for parking. Public park stuff, so the tennis net or ball, some balls in there, some programs that can be stored in there. We also have 2 restrooms that, in the fall, someone's playing tennis, the pool's not open, they can still go and go to the restroom. All along that lower leg, both lines up and down, you'll see these dashed lines, those are canopies, so that if it does start to sprinkle, if it gets too hot, whatever else, there's some shaded area to go and relax. And now in the brick pavilion, we wanted to, we know that there's some restrooms there that are outdated. They're really not functional, they're not accessible. So we're proposing to demolish that small addition. And instead of having to access them from outside, we'll be able to access them from both inside the multi-purpose room and from that new deck that we're going to add all along the bottom. Also, we're putting in the janitor's closet to help assist in the maintaining spaces. And that's one of the things that came up when we were on site was that, the refrigerator is here, the range is over there, and the sinks are on. So we're proposing to just combine all of that stuff that you see on the right-hand side of the plan, and just make a kitchenette basically, and consolidate all those things so better function. That's part of the roof. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, and then go back. One of the big items that I did forget, unfortunately, as you see, is to get out onto that deck from the multi-purpose room. We do propose to turn the windows, put them down to the floor, and put in garage doors, so that could become an indoor-outdoor space. If you have a party, it increases the size that you can use for that event. And creates a really nice, so we're looking at the rest of the park. Yeah.
I have a quick question. You guys did not address the track flow.
Oh, that's a point. I know we did talk about it previously. One big item that we are proposing, it's a relatively simple change, but it's a significant one for folks that have used the park all their lives. We're proposing to maintain the entrance and the exit lanes as one way, is the way they are today. But when you enter the park currently, you circumnavigate the oval by turning left and going around the oval to the left. When you come in, we're going to propose that you reverse that flow around the oval and go to the right. And there's a couple of really significant reasons that we are proposing this. With the updated plan and that centralized parking space the way it is, it makes a lot of sense for folks to come in, go to the right, and you're going to peel off a lot of users that are going to be going to the pool house or that main parking field for where they're going to park and then access the park. But additionally, if your folks are moving around to, say, the community center, it's a short leg around that loop to get there. Pull in, there's parking designated as well. And then as you continue down along the lake, you have, again, additional angled parking for the rest of the area. You can loop back around for that parallel parking that's above or at the upper grade of all of the small pavilions there, the linear row of pavilions there. But it creates a nice secondary loop that you can, if you need to find a spot or you want to circle back to get to a spot, it's a lot easier to do that without having to go around the whole oval. And then the last bit would just be to get to the exit through the bottom of the oval, going straight out, and then to align with the exit. Currently, as you come around the loop, the first time I visited the park, I went around the loop like 3 times before I figured out that there would be a turn at one point to get to the exit. So now it's a lot more simple where you're moving directly towards the exit if you're circumnavigating it to the right. We are also proposing that that one leg there on the right side of the park be utilized as a two-way traffic. So again, as people come in to go through the loop, you'll be going to the right. But if you want to go directly to the baseball fields at the top of the hill, you can make a left, go straight down. You get to the bottom, there'll be a lot of signs that says, do not enter, one lane, etc. So you know you can only go straight as opposed to hitting the loop. We anticipate, again, a lot of instinctual use, a lot of, doing it that way for decades upon decades. A lot of signage is going to be required. A lot of temporary signage up front as well, in addition to the formalized wayfinding. But again, I think it's a very efficient way to circulate people, to reduce the amount of people that have to drive the oval in the first place. So that again, as you're out into the park, there's less interaction between cars and people. Kind of focus that in areas where it's designated more for parking and circulation, and keep the vast majority of the park free of cars as we can. I appreciate you pointing that out. Thank you.
Questions for you. Is your intention to preserve pavilions, the current fitness pavilions?
Absolutely. The ones that are all in a row there, the former day stables for the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The confusion comes in, there's really no designation there of the buildings. So I've had some questions from my constituents as to whether or not we plan to preserve those.
Absolutely.
Okay, next, currently we have a protective coating on the sport courts, which is designed to extend the life of these courts. Is that going to be something that you're going to include on the surfaces of the new courts?
Yeah, so the new sport courts are going to get the most up-to-date type of surfacing that there is. We're not going to just put in concrete. We're going to put in the purpose-built sport court surfacing on top of the concrete slab.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, one more question. The swimming pool area where you have the various storage and the changing rooms, you mentioned that there would be a canopy there for shade relief. Is that going to be a temporary or a permanent structure?
What we plan is that there's a row of columns that, and the roof continues out. So it would be there.
So it would be attached to the building permanently? Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
And all those details still need to be resolved right now, and that's where we're going.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in your plan, you have the pool going, let's see, I'm looking at this right, completed in the second quarter of 2025. Hey, fingers crossed, everything goes
Most
well.
optimistic timeline possible, yes.
But I don't understand, the parking is not until 2026.
Right, so
Why
the,
is
the parking itself will be, yeah. You'll have to demolish the existing pool facility because our intent is to maintain the existing pool facility right up to the point where we're gonna open the door, so that you don't have a season without access to the public pool. So in order to do that, once that new pool house and pool is complete, you can begin demolishing the existing pool facility. There's some grading that has to happen there as well, to build up the area for parking and then construction of the parking. The intent is for that to follow after the completion of the pool, immediately follow that with demolition and then construction. But just from the phasing of it, it's gonna be spaced out.
I guess my concern is where's everyone gonna park coming to the pool for the next year and a half?
Which is definitely why we wanted those angled parking spaces along the oval to be installed early in the process as opposed to later and formalizing some of that. But instead of, I understand the intent to get parking as quickly as you can, but in order to effectively, if you wanted to do it all together, you have a year, 2 years of notice. So we thought was a detriment to the community.
That's all I have.
How far from the pool house is the first proposed parking area?
It's directly across the street.
No. You're not gonna do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna have the inset walk all around the oval with the angled parking that's gonna be all around that, as well as the smaller parking lot over by the community building.
Okay,
Would there
well,
be
what
temporary,
would,
like, handicap parking close here so that everyone starts to?
Yeah, a lot of those details are stuff that we're integrating a lot of the more finalized design. We're at that concept part, we still have a couple more stages to go. And each of those stages will find a lot of the details of the design, and start to address a lot of these concerns. But definitely, we would intend to have something that's more temporary.
right, well, again, what would you approximate would be the walking distance from the first parking area?
I couldn't say until we laid out a temporary parking scheme.
Okay, something maybe you want to keep in mind for the next set of plans for that to us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I have a question, I'm sure you're working on this, but the signage when looking on the bridge, at a 12 above 3 point, I'm sure you've all heard the stories about that. So you're going to be working on like that two-way, driving two ways in the park and redirecting. You've thought of a lot of different ways with signage, because we thought we had that covered. And I don't know, I think most people that went to school here did learn to read, but some people, I think, chose not to. So you're
Again,
gonna
it's
help
an
us with that,
institutional
right?
knowledge of having done it for decades, that you have to overcome, we understand that completely. But yeah, there's a full complement of wayfinding signage that's a part of the process here. That's gonna be permanent signage. But in addition to that, the intent would be to have the orange glazed signs that say new traffic pattern or temporary signage, have some sort of educational signage that shows the new traffic pattern you can see. Try to get that out in media outlets so that people hear it on the news, see it in the paper, see it online, on the website. Again, you can't over communicate and change like that.
We do have a lot of people from other communities that come here as well, which really good.
Thank you.
I told you.
I'm coming back for at least one more.
So on the pavilion, you talked about the deck side having windows and stuff replaced. What about the opposite side? Is that being?
Yeah, we would probably replace the windows.
Okay, I didn't know if that was.
Necessarily put the door on.
Okay. Do you feel like the end of 2027 is a realistic timeframe? I understand it was the best possible, but
Right.
that's not going to happen.
Again, when you look at that schedule, we're looking at that from a optimistic view on a conceptual plan. As, again, when we talked about that design process, each of those phases have updates to schedule, et cetera, associated with them. We'll continue to evaluate things like availability of constructors, material availability for construction materials. Again, a lot that we've seen over the past 3 to 5 years has been supply chain issues that we all noticed with not only construction materials, but a lot of retail goods. And then contractor availability has been a little sparse as of late for construction projects. So that will all get baked into the schedules as they get updated. But we don't want to exercise too much of a crystal ball. That's why the detail was pretty light on that as well. But we're trying to give some sort of estimate as to a window that you guys should expect.
And my only other concern is that we're still at the conceptual phase. I would have thought that was the last meeting. The conceptual phase when we had an overall design, and now we're coming in with more. And I understand we're not completely detailed.
The flip side to that as well is, I understand your comment, we did want to incorporate the last round of changes to the concept, get those reviewed and approved, prior to moving into more detailed design. But that first phase, we're gonna move to 30% for the overall site, everything all together all at once. And that's more of a coordination exercise for us on the civil side, making sure the grades all work together, utility systems that cross those boundaries of different phases all connected in the right ways. But in addition, we're gonna take that first phase and move that directly from the concept to final.
Okay.
So that we can start the process of getting some construction started as quickly as possible. And then the others will follow kind of in that sequence way. Buildings will be in a slightly different time frame, just because of the different level of effort that goes into the design of the specific buildings, etc. But again, the intent is for that initial 30% at the next deliverable to be prepared. So again, we're trying to hit that July window for construction to complete in that first phase.
Thank you.
So when do you think we'll be at that 30%?
For that initial overall site, and then the moving of detailed design, we're projecting to have that ready for presentation to you guys sometime in February.
And how fast will the subsequent?
Again, that first phase is gonna be at the final stage at that point. But then the rest of it's gonna have that kind of sequence executed. That 30% of the overall thing is really, again, that coordination effort. And then the pieces that go into the different phases start to pick up after we get through that first set. You can see that kind of phase 2, 3, we've already started. Obviously, you've seen some of the floor plans of the pool house, so that design's actually already started in its progress. But because of the duration that it's gonna take, not only for design, but for construction in that facility, it's on a different timeline. It's other, but again, we'll start to update the specific schedules for package deliverables as we give you the next update. Updates the schedule for
I'm back. Steve, you can go ahead.
Guys, I wanna know, are you planning on making the pool smaller than what it is? I heard you, a number got stood out at 465, our capacity is 605.
No.
Yeah, no, we, there's a posted, maximum, and my memory's not as good as
I
it
got
should be,
you. Okay.
so, no, we use that as the guide,
Okay.
the size of everything.
The pool is definitively not smaller than the existing. I can't speak if it's how much more pool area there is, but we made sure that we were not only incorporating kind of a lap pool kind of orientation, but a walk-in, a zero walk-in pool area, kiddie area, as well as splash pad.
So I'm clear, the pool phase of it, you're not demoing the old one until the new one is complete, so we would never be without a pool season.
That's correct.
But the brick pavilion, we could be without a season during that construction.
What we would try to do for the pavilion is have it so that construction would happen over a full period of time, where you typically
That would-
wouldn't see a lot of use. But again,
Okay.
that's crystal ball, and we've been known to be wrong.
I believe Scott has a question.
Yeah, so I have one question. It was on area A. It was one of the first slides, showed the retention pond at the bottom. In that area, and I'm just basing this off of your image, yeah, that one there. There's a main sewer line that runs right through that retention pond. I don't know when you guys surveyed and did your markings that you picked up on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a concept level.
Yeah, I'm just.
And the
something there.
stormwater basin itself isn't necessarily a pond, it could be a infiltration area, dry basin, et cetera. So we'll work around all of the existing utilities in two separate bays that kind of jacket that so that we would being over top of it. So
Just something that I just want to throw out there.
appreciate it.
Another question in the back here, sir.
Oh. Go ahead, man.
As you're moving the softball field, it's gonna be down there by the retention.
I believe there was a slight shift to that, and we backstopped, we were all of that.
Well, the dimensions have to be 180 feet if you plan on hosting the tournament. And the way that creek runs, it shortens it off. You can't go 180 all the way around from left to left, center to center. So if you're moving it, you may have to cut back in the hillside because you gotta have 180 feet.
The intent was we could have a higher fence along that one leg to
But if
approximate
you wanna hold
distance.
tournaments, you have to have a minimum of 180 feet. I stressed that to you guys back in June.
No, you definitely have it down the line, for sure, but we can look at that if it's a term regulation, et cetera. When we read the design guide for it, we could compensate for distance with height of fence, and that was the intent for where it's height of fence. Again, we'll revisit that as we get into the detailed design.
I have a question too. Now, we're all no stranger to the amount of construction traffic that we've had in the past 9 months in the Palestine. This is gonna be a project for 4 to 5 years, we're talking. Do we have a designated traffic construction in and out of the park that might not be obstructing everyday traffic that's, you know? I know right now we have a water plant on the backside that's getting construction to it. Is there an option to put a temporary construction lane in where that traffic and storage can be away from everyday people and it doesn't bring any more convenience than it already has?
Yeah, we haven't looked at the details of that kind of construction, traffic maintenance or anything like that. As we work through the detailed design of each of the phases, we'll have some idea of how the construction laydown areas and pathways, et cetera. But you should understand too that that's also the reason why we phased out some of this, so it's not just a massive project all at once. It's a much more smaller scale, confined area that's being constructed.
Thank you.
The parking for the community building, is that gonna be completed before started?
Yeah, so that phase is actually gonna happen after the pool is started. And again, I think the intent is for a lot of that to happen during the cooler months. We can still do some pavement on the very beginning of the spring or the kind of fall, so that it's as least disruptive as possible to the use of the park itself. But again, that's a very minor refinement of an existing parking lot that's already there. So it shouldn't be a significant disruption or significant change to the existing parking.
That would probably be close to blocking the parking once
Not to the front door, we're not in the front door, it's gonna be all the way to the right, yeah. And the way you access it would be that. We didn't necessarily cover it, but there is a drop off fee at that front door. Folks who still building challenges, really getting the same idea of, family gets dropped off at the front door, one of the parents, parent can then go park, so that, and there's not a whole moving of children and infants and, bags for the day, et cetera, to the park.
I know we didn't talk a lot about phase, in that phase 4 for that community center, is it really just parking that's getting done, or is it a restroom as well?
There's a pre-engineered restroom that's intended to be included there, but there's also some building refreshment.
Yeah, that's the building conditions.
I have a question. One of the things that I noticed that we didn't talk about is our disc golf area. And I can tell that looking at where the parking lot is, it really takes off is the two of our,
Excellent. I have an avid disc golf user of this course.
yeah, great
That's
course.
actually on my staff, and he was the first one. We do have plans to relocate the tee and the bins for anyone that we have to disrupt. He was very happy when we relocated the amphitheater from the back edge of that hillside, because that's one of the more challenging, and he said one of the more exciting ones. Yeah, absolutely are considering where those are going to be located and relocating, so we maintain our level.
Is the swimming pool gonna have swim lane for swim team?
Is there any improvements to the existing pond that's there now?
There's no intended improvements to that pond off to the right-hand side there. That area is like kind of a nice grove of trees and a pond area. We're just leaving that as a naturalized area without actual building.
So since we're still in the conceptual stage, these are kind of how you look, how this should be, correct?
No, actually, this is something that we've reviewed with feedback from the community already a couple of times. So this is kind of this is the culmination of the feedback that we've gotten, as well as priority to program themselves.
So if residents had some other ideas, could they present that to you? Is it too late for that? Or how would that work?
Really, we're in the process of moving from conceptual to that 30%.
Yeah, but how many times did you meet with the public? Once. You came in June and you said you were going to involve the public. Now you're saying you're already in the conceptual stage. That's not being honest with the public. You wanted our input, but you never asked for our input. That's not right. That's not right.
I can't speak to the process. I wasn't necessarily involved in that aspect of it, but I can just speak to where we understand we are in the design.
Did you have discussions with city council in any depth for their ideas?
Absolutely. We've met with them and gotten their feedback and incorporated that.
And the park board, did they put their input into it?
No. You've not included the park board. You have not included the park board.
Again, wasn't part of the mapping out of that process or a lot of that preliminary part of the process.
So is there something that the park board wants to add, say?
I think, overall, looking at everything, I think it's a very good, project that you have going on there. I think there are other little things that we don't really talk about at the Waterford Golf Park. And I said it before when we were here, would have, been good to have the park board involved, but you have a park board for a reason.
What was yours?
I thought there were a few.
Add, what would you like to say?
Who are you talking to?
Park board. I know there's a few members here.
Yeah,
Or
it's,
you, sir, I don't know if you're on
Yeah.
the park board or not, but.
no, I mean, it's also, to put everybody on the spot right there after we've seen this for 45 minutes, so it's, digesting everything at one time. And I'm not complaining, I think this is very good, it's very good, what you have put together. I just think, what Dan is saying that, you have a park board should have been involved in the process as part of the community to help bring the ideas back. So when we say part of the community, what he means is, if I'm wrong, what you meant by doing with the community is that we're going to.
So we haven't had any private conversations, or at least I have not been a part of any private conversations. We haven't talked in executive session, everything public so far. The plans were laid out at that first meeting in June, July, whenever you were out. We haven't really talked about it since then, since they have left. We're getting all this information at the same time. So we've seen it for 45 minutes as well.
And then I'm confused about who the community is
the last meeting, I think we had an extensive Q&A session on what we would like to add.
And I'm not trying to throw stones.
I'm not trying to
That's-
argue with you, I'm just trying to say,
When we had the
we have been
meeting in
working
my
on this.
office, when Brenda met with you, and a few of us met at my office,
Yes.
that was.
Right before we saw the original.
Right, that's when we saw it. Then we had that meeting where people were here, had an extensive Q&A session.
And then the next time you meet again is two.
What was it?
And then the next time you meet is two. So in between that time period.
Yeah, no one has seen anything.
Okay, so I just wanna say, when there's conversations that have evolved the community since then, since that originally, we took, ideas and come back, it's that, what we're saying, that's really not true, it's we had that first meeting, and then we came back and
And I think that's when there was that community input. There hasn't been any other meetings regarding these.
And I'm not saying this is bad at all, that's not what I'm saying at all. I think it's a very good project, everything I think there's positive, I think the moves are gonna be made.
I think
Nothing
the other
said-
thing, just a lack of communication with
Yeah.
the people. It's been a 6-month project. I believe a couple of council meetings ago, we heard that they have kind of dropped the ball, and I believe that was a quote unquote. I won't put anybody in specific. But again, if we're moving forward in this town and we want to unite, trying to get a better community, then we have to do it. It's been 6 or 7 months. This is just a concept. I've been in building and design myself, nothing of this size. So yes, it's a massive project. Concept to ideas, maybe there's been a little bit of a gap.
All right, put everything on hold till we have a public meeting then. When do you want to have a public meeting? Get everybody's ideas.
I don't think it needs a public meeting. I'm just saying it's been 6 months.
Well, it's
We're gonna
gotta
say
be,
we talked to
because it's
people.
not, if you're not included in it, and I don't mean you personally, then you're gonna be upset. If you're not included in it, you're gonna be upset, so let's have a public meeting. And we can all get in a room and scream, and nothing will get accomplished, and one of them.
If that's the way you want to lead it, that's the way it's going to happen.
I have something I'd like to say. Our council is supposed to represent the community, so
Yes, they are.
if I'm talking to this one, or this one, or this one over here about things, I am putting my input into the community.
Let's have a community meeting, yeah.
No, I'm talking about prior to this. We're talking to you, we're giving our input. You guys are supposed to take that input, and that's what I think it's been done here, and give that to the people that are doing the engineering. Okay, and carry that from there.
But we have people in the, we have residents that aren't happy, so let's have a meeting. We can invite everybody, and you can we'll have some kind of form, because it's just gonna turn into melee if not. But not everybody in this room is gonna be happy with the final design. So, but if we give everybody a chance to put their ideas in, I did say we're all seeing these for the first time. So, that's a dog park. I thought there was gonna be more done than lighting. I told people in the community we would have them, so I think
So I think what what's given here is that fine, but to say in 6 months the council has never seen it since. Then what kind of touch points have been made with this company up until then, to make sure things are going on? I think that's.
The last time I saw a design of anything was the design 6 months ago in that meeting when you all signed it. And half the community saw that design before anybody on council or the mayor saw it. So, if we want to start throwing rocks, we will, but it's we're all frustrated just like you. We're all seeing this too. We're trying to work together. That's what I'm saying. Let's have an open public forum where everybody can put their ideas in. And then, we can't bring it to a vote. That's just not how it works. You elected these 6 people and me for a reason. But if you have ideas that should be put in the park, then you need to write those down and submit them, and we need to have some kind of public thing. I'm not just saying, this to be a smart aleck. I'm serious. There needs to be public input on what's going on.
So anybody that came to me during my term as interim manager after that first public forum, I would forward everything on to Norfolk Southern saying, these were the ideas that people are getting to me. I forwarded them on to Norfolk Southern. And then this is what they came back with. And this first, I saw this is today on my desk. I asked Norfolk Southern not to get it out to anybody else in the community, like it sort of leaked last time, because it was leaked out. I didn't even see it, and there's probably a dozen other people that saw it before me. We are on a tight time frame. I was gonna say to council, what is our next phase? Dave's not here for us tonight to say. Do we need a resolution or something to move forward on these next phases of this project? The more we delay, the more it's gonna push to the timetable back, where we could maybe lose out on something in that time frame. but if we
Even
want
if it's not a public meeting, we say, in the next 2 weeks, if you have an idea for the parks, please submit it in writing. And then we'll put them out in a pamphlet, and we'll have them here if anybody can see, hey, you think we should do this, and that's what we should do. Lenny, you've been in construction forever. There's people that use the dog park all the time. That's fine. Maybe you have ideas. We don't use the dog park. I have a fenced-in yard, but, I mean, when kids were little, they wanted to go up there, so that's fine. I mean, we have to work as a community. I hope, and nobody took my comments earlier as spiteful. I'm serious. Stop it, and this is our park. It's not Norfolk Southern's, it's not Michael Baker's, it's the residents of East Palestine.
So all the ideas that will be given, if you ask for ideas, does Norfolk Southern have to approve them before they go into the park?
We have to approve everything.
council has to approve everything.
Norfolk Southern can, and this isn't a North, I don't want to make this us and them.
Well, she just stated that.
Norfolk Southern is, they're paying for this, they're designing it. But
That's
also,
correct, yes.
These 6 people around here have to vote yes or no whether we go ahead.
Okay.
Like anything else.
Any ideas that were brought to me, I did forward them on to the correct people to forward them on to Michael Baker.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you.
Norfolk Southern, they forwarded on.
Okay. I just misunderstood you. I'm sorry.
The ballpark, or the dog park, or this, but we can have people submit ideas. We'll give it 2 weeks. We do have to get these plans going on. So I guess I'll put it out there. Anybody, if council approves this, in the next 2 weeks, please submit your ideas to council of what you feel should be in the park. And maybe there's somebody who'll come up with a great idea. Maybe not. I don't know. But I mean, yes, you should have a voice. I don't think we can have a public meeting necessarily. I don't think that, because somebody's going to get upset. But you all have the opportunity to submit a letter or an idea of how you do it. And if you want to get together after that and we can discuss some of those ideas, that is fine. But we need to. The holiday season's coming up. First of the year's coming up, and these fine people are helping us. Revive the park, and we need to do that, and it has to be in a timely manner. But yes, if the public wants the chance to do it, I think they should have the chance.
So then, if you propose a meeting where people can put in, or a timeframe people propose to send, that if you put these proposed plans out there and say, hey, this is what we're working off of, what do you think we should do with this? Is that how that would work then?
We can try. We have to. I mean, yes, I'm not going to say there's other ideas.
You can't just have somebody say, hey, based on what we have now, after they went and put all this into it.
Yes, I don't think there's going to be any major changes, but there is some, like, seating at the dog park. They just said lights in a parking lot. It'd be nice to have nicer seating at the dog park. Fix the fence. It might already be fixed. I don't know. I think out there. If it is, I apologize. But, trim a tree you don't like. I was talking to some of the disc golfers. There's a couple trees they would want cut down. And I'm sure there'll be people here that don't want the tree cut down. So you have to work with everybody. Nobody's going to be happy, but I do want the residents to be happy and don't feel like they were slighted. So let's give them the opportunity. That's my opinion. If council disagrees, then I'll shut up.
Mr. Mayor.
Make a date 2 weeks from now, and everybody has their submissions in.
That would be
Then we can put it together on my sheet.
1 second.
How long for the next meeting?
Right now.
Estimated it's about 2 weeks from today. Most likely the letters would have to be before noon on the Friday before that council.
Mayor, that was gonna be my suggestion. Just like when they have an agenda item put on for the council packet, have it the Friday before, have it submitted by noon, and we can look at it for the next council meeting.
That work?
So the next council meeting will be
The 11th.
December 11th. So anybody that has suggestions can submit them to me, and I need them by Friday, December 8th, before noon on that day, so I can put them in the council packets. You can bring them in, you can mail them in, you can email them, whatever's easiest for you.
Can we advertise this on the village
It will be
website?
put everywhere, yes.
Thank you.
So then the only other thing is, do we want to make a motion to take their resolution? Do we want to? That's gonna be
I think that we can make that motion, because it's not gonna be decided until we see all those letters anyways. So we can at least have it.
Just one question about the project and the things that were presented.
I see the stage has moved. Has it changed at all? At one point in time, it was just a concrete slab. Is there a roof or anything different right now?
The stage itself is configured in the same way that was discussed previously. It's an elevated, basic concrete stage. I know there was discussion about some sort of covering. We haven't gotten into the specific design of that. Some of the thoughts that we have is maybe a fabric covering that could be up during the summer months, but then taken down during the winter. Or taken down when you don't want an obstructed view of other places. But again, those are details that will develop as we develop the design.
Right.
But we did hear covering over top of it.
So we have to get to our regular meeting, but I would also urge the park board. Somebody said earlier, we have a park board for a reason. I would urge you in the next 2 weeks to get together, possibly have like a special open meeting, and maybe you can help, get some of these ideas channeled in, so we don't have 7,000 pieces of paper to go through. So, but that's up to you guys. I thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank everybody for coming.
Excuse me.
30 seconds. I'm sorry. We got it stated.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Now, when you go back to the capacity of the pool that Steve was asking about, there's the regular, like our pool was approximately 3 feet to 5.5 feet, our swimming area. So now you're talking about an addition to the deep part, 3 to 6 feet. There will be a kiddie pool and then a wade-in. So I didn't want the capacity of the wade-in and the kiddie pool to take up what our 3 foot to 6 foot, you know what I mean? Is that what you were saying?
I don't think that
The actual swimming part will have the same capacity
capacity.
as it currently does.
I just tell you maintain that configuration.
It's the same.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn? Second?